Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Glad to see you all here. We're going to go ahead and get started. So I, Jacqueline Colton, President of the Duncanville ISD School Board, do hereby call this meeting of the Duncanville Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of trustees are present tonight, that the meeting has been duly noticed and called, and it has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. With that, we will now move to the opening ceremonies. Yes, ma'am.
Please join me for a word of prayer. Dear Lord, as we gather for this school board budget meeting, we ask for wisdom, clarity, unity. Guide every conversation and decision so that it reflects care for our students, support for our teachers and staff, and stewardship of the resources entrusted to us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Trustee Vera Cruz. Okay, now we'll move to the pledge to the U.S. flag and the Texas flag, and we'll just all do it together. Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
We will now move to communications from citizens. There are none. Okay, so since we do not have any communications from citizens, we will now move to the budget workshop, and I will turn the meeting over to Dr. Goree.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and good evening, all other trustees and Madam President. At this time, I'd like to invite our CFO, Ms. Pumphrey, to come with our second budget workshop for the year. In this budget workshop, she will outline the things that will be covered tonight, and just a couple things that we're excited about is that tonight we'll have our first presentation of the proposed budget for our next school year. Also, a big part of the budget, too, will be looking at our compensation study and those things that we feel we need to move forward with as far as compensation is concerned to remain competitive as we look for personnel to service our children. So at this time, I invite Ms. Pumphrey to come with her presentation. And if you, a couple things, board members, you do have an updated copy of the presentation at your station. If you would like to take notes on that, and at the end of the presentation, we will be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Good evening, President Colton, distinguished trustees, Superintendent Goree. My name is Shauna Pumphrey, and I'm the CFO here at Duncanville ISD, and welcome to our budget workshop number 2. Get my clicker together here. Here is our agenda for this evening. So we'll be covering the end-of-year projections, budget year priorities, budget factors and assumptions. We'll take a look at our first draft of the proposed budget for 26-27. I'll give you a status update on our Nutrition Services Fund, our Debt Services Fund, and then we'll have our Chief Human Resources Officer come up and give you a presentation and overview on the compensation plans for 26-27. And then we will look at next steps leading up to our budget adoption at the June 15th board meeting. So overall, our goal tonight is to provide transparency regarding the district's financial position while ensuring the board has all the information they need to make an informed decision as we move into 26-27. Here on this slide, you'll see this time last year, the district adopted a deficit budget of $18.1 million. And so through the course of this school year, last fall, we did a series of budget amendments. And so right now, our amended budget is projecting a deficit of $12.6 billion. So during the span Year-to-date, we've been able to close that gap, $5.39 million. That's a huge achievement. This kind of outlines here how we've been able to do that. We've gone in looking at our enrollment, our demographics. We were able to make a slight adjustment in our state revenue and contain our expenses and reduce them by $1.8 million. And that was done going through leadership, looking at some positions that we were able, some vacancies that we were able to close last fall, as well as some containment that we can do in travel and supplies and other areas in the budget. So I did want to highlight that the district and the leadership team has worked really hard to get that amended budget down by the deficit down by 5.3 million. Here we're going to look at, as I mentioned before, we adopted the budget at an $18 million deficit and then amended it in the fall to 12.6 deficit. And just kind of looking at our activity year to date, I'm projecting we should end the fiscal year at a deficit of around 8 million. And when you add in the track repairs that the board approved, we're looking at 10.7 million. And so I will come back to the board as we get closer to the end of the school year and bring you the final amended budget that should align all the numbers up once we're able to continue reviewing that information. But I did want to just let the board kind of know where we are and what we're expecting to end the year at, a $10.7 million deficit, including the track repairs. And I will also bring that budget amendment to the board at the May 18th meeting, specifically for the track, because you have already approved it, but we have not done the budget amendment to allow us to move forward and pay for it. So I will bring that to the board at the May meeting. Here, as we continue to talk about fund balance, we're working really hard as a leadership team to align our budget. But right now, we are operating at an $8 million structural deficit, meaning that we're spending $8 million a year more than the revenue that we bring in. And so, we're working with the leadership team to bring that into line over the next couple of years. So we'll get going with a plan to bring that down, because I personally have not ever adopted a deficit budget. So this is a first for me, but we'll be working to get that down, hoping to get that to a balanced budget in the next couple of years. In regards to our fund balance, as I mentioned, on average, we're spending 11.2 million in monthly expenses. So right now, in reserves, we have equivalent to 5 months of fund balance on reserve. So TEA looks around 3 months average, and so we're ahead of that. But I just want to make the board aware, if we continue to operate as we are, we're looking, we would run out of funds in 2029. Next are our budget priorities for the fiscal year. These are the 4 key drivers that kind of outline all the decisions that we're making as a leadership team. These also align with our strategic goals, and they are to accelerate academic growth. We'll do this by prioritizing funding to accelerate measurable student academic growth and make sure those dollars are spent in the classroom on our children. We're looking to make sure we focus on investing in strategic talent, in regards to our compensation, and making sure we're able to retain good quality leadership and teachers all across the district. We're looking to ensure student-centered operations, maintaining a safe and efficient environment. That means investing in security and safety for our children and campuses, as well as I mentioned, with our fund balance, making sure we're protecting the long-term sustainability of the district. Some of the budget factors and assumptions for our 26-27 budget year are enrollment, the average daily attendance, property values, staffing, and compensation. And a lot of information in regards to several of these components is slowly developing. We're still working with the Central Appraisal District on property values. We still have TASB reviewing our compensation, and still our compressed tax rate from the Texas Education Agency. We're still waiting to get that. So these are a lot of moving targets. So each time we come to the board, it will be to update with any additional information that we've received since the last meeting. Here, we've received updated student enrollment projections from our student services team, and they're projecting a positive net of 54 students in the district with a total enrollment of 11,122 students. As you can see here, they're projecting 67 students at our elementary level, 55 at our middle school level, with a decline at the high school level. And so these are early projections, and I'm still working with them to kind of, hash that out to figure out what are some of the drivers to make sure that we go into the budget with a good enrollment number. Next here, we have our average daily attendance, and this kind of outlines our activity over the 5-6 weeks this school year. So you can see we started out and kind of built up really strong the 2nd and 3rd 6 weeks, and then we kind of dipped in the 4th and 5th 6 weeks. So, we're projected to enroll 11,122 students, and our current average daily attendance rate of 91.37% would equate to roughly 10,162 students in attendance each day. And so the next slide, if you just look at that baseline, each student represents $6,215. So right off the bat, if all of those children show up, we're looking at base state aid of $63 million. And so, we get specific weights for students if they're special ed, depending on their demographics. If they're at risk, high poverty, we will get additional state aid for that as well. Here, some of the additional budget factors, as I mentioned earlier, that are still in flux that impact our budget significantly. Property tax values, we have state aid and then we have property tax. Those are the main components of the revenue that drives our district. You all are homeowners here in Duncanville, so you recently received your appraisal values and you have time to protest, and that deadline is coming up this week, I believe. So once we go through that process and they flush out some of the protests, we will have a final certified appraisal value on July 25th. In the meantime, they're sending estimates. So we should get an updated estimate this week that we'll be able to update the board on May 18th with some new property tax information there. So pretty much all of our assumptions now is just to maintain the current tax rate at what it is, which is 0.07452 for maintenance and operations and 0.3605 for our interest and sinking, which is how we fund our debt payments. As I mentioned earlier, I think last time we kind of highlighted, the budget is pretty much comprised of 84% payroll. And so that's why we have our chief of HR here tonight to kind of give you an update on the TASB compensation study and all the exciting things we're looking to do from that standpoint. Here is a new rule they put in place where we now have to have a property value taxpayer impact statement. And so this here is a draft. We don't have all the full information from Dallas County Appraisal District, but pretty much what the rule is, you have to have it posted on your website, and anytime you talk about the budget, you have to disclose to the taxpayer how that possibly could impact them in their tax bills. So here I just plugged in from Zillow to give you just a visual of what this would look like. The 2025-26 obviously is finalized, so those numbers are from our truth and taxation statement. But the 26-27, the medium value homestead price, I've taken that from the March 31st, 2026 Zillow report, and you would plug it there, and I've assumed the tax rate did not change, and so you can see that would be a slight $53 savings. And so as we get the official tax appraisal information and medium home prices, this will be updated, and it will also be posted on our website, and then it has to go into our meeting notice as well anytime we talk about the budget. So just wanted to highlight that to the board. Next is just another slide to kind of give you an overall view of what the economic trend is in Duncanville. Once again, this is from Zillow. So just kind of looking there, you can see that there are 103 homes actively on the market in Duncanville. the median list price there. So you can see that Duncanville is an affordable place, to live. So hopefully, that'll attract some residents into the city, but just wanted to give you that little snapshot there. Once again, this is the preliminary values from DCAD as of April. And so you can see there the market values, the taxable values. And just to give you an example, I checked today. Let me find that. I didn't get to. But just so you'll have, for instance, at the end of July last year, when we received our certified values, the market value on residential was at 6.1 billion and it's 6.6 billion now. So there was a slight increase, not anything significant, but there was some increase there. On the commercial side, from a market value standpoint, last year when we got our certified values, it was 3.3 billion, and you can see on the commercial it's 3.9. And then on the business personal property, it was 1.35 at the July certified values, and it's 1.34 now in this preliminary estimate. So, it's still in line, slight increases and decreases. And this will be updated, like I said, once we get, each time we get additional information. So here is our first draft of the proposed budget. So I'm bringing forward to the board an $8 million deficit budget as our first draft. We're looking at revenues of $127 million with total expenditures of $135 million, and those are nice round numbers because I like nice round numbers. But this is our first draft, and once again, as the additional information comes in, we'll be able to update some of our revenue numbers as we get the property tax information. We're continue to work through the TASB study, but this incorporates a lot of the things that the superintendent would like to do for staff, and so that has already been captured in here, and so I am projecting an $8 million, like I said, that's pretty much how we're operating. And so on the child nutrition, the next column there, they're pretty much breaking even. I projected proposing a small deficit there, and I'll be bringing to the board at the May 18th meeting a budget amendment. So for child nutrition, the only thing we're working on there is that we're running about a $250,000 a year uncollected student meal balance. And so we're not allowed to keep that because those are federal funds, so the general fund has to eat that cost. And so what has been happening is we've been transferring funds from the general fund to cover that deficit. And so I'm just going to start budgeting for it so it's visible and you're aware of it. A lot of districts have businesses that donate funds to cover that, so I just wanted to highlight to the board. But the last 3 years or so, it's been about $250,000 a year for uncollected student meals. And so our child nutrition team, they're working, they make calls and do lots of things, but they don't have any teeth to enforce that. So, but they do diligently call and send emails and everything they can possibly do on their end to collect those funds. The next column is our debt service fund, and I am proposing a $30 million budget there, and that would basically cover our debt service payments. And that is with us anticipating doing the refunding. We had the gentleman come last board meeting and present that to the board, and so we would basically refinance some of our debt. And so the new state law does not let you adopt an interest and sinking tax rate that will create excess funds. You can only do enough to cover your debt payment. And so he will be at the board meeting again on Monday to kind of represent that as an action item to the board. So overall, across the 3 combined funds, we're looking at a deficit budget of the $8.2 million with the $8 million in the general fund and the slight deficit in the child nutrition fund. So here, just to give you an update, in child nutrition as of March, you can see in the 3rd column activity year to date, they're pretty much breaking even. That's mostly federal reimbursements, as I mentioned before, for our meal counts. And so I anticipate them breaking even at the end of the year. So just wanted to, give you that information here. For debt services, you can see right now we have a surplus of 1.7 million activity year to date. And as I mentioned earlier I think the April board meeting, we'll be doing a prepayment on our debt. So that excess 1.7 million, you all approved that at the September board meeting for us to do a prepayment. So we'll be executing that prepayment prior to June 30th. And basically sending those funds to pay down some of our debt earlier and recognize some interest savings there. But going forward next year, that's kind of where we won't be able to do that. You have to only adopt a budget enough to pay your existing current debt payment and can't generate any extra funds to pay down debt. And this is important because the faster you pay down debt, that gives you more capacity to do bond elections and some things in the future. So here I just wanted to kind of highlight to the board how our debt service payments work. We typically make two debt service payments every year, one in August and one in February. So these are what's incorporated in the budget plus the additional that we would look to have if we were to move forward with doing the refinancing. That'll be presented to the board on Monday. Here is just a summary, again, of what the gentleman from BOK posted. We currently have $256 million of outstanding callable bonds, and so the order that we will be bringing to the board on Monday is to refinance $26,845,000 of that. So just wanted to put that here again in case you all had any questions, but he will be at the board meeting on Monday to address any questions that you all have or think of between now and then. And so,
Right, actually, let's do this. Instead of, before we come with compensation, of course, board members, you can ask questions at any time about any of the presentation, but let's take questions up to this point. Maybe
Okay.
some board members may have questions
All right.
before we introduce the compensation part of our presentation.
Okay, are there any questions from the trustee Flowers?
My question was regarding the child nutrition.
Yes,
How
ma'am.
much of that is connected to parents completing the free and reduced lunch applications?
The majority of it is from the high school and it's students not paying their bill. So we do try to direct certified students for the free and reduced. And if their applications, we do follow up with them to get those completed. These are instances where children come to school and they don't pay. We don't give them cheese sandwiches or anything of that. We pay them we provide them the full meal. And then that cost gets, charged as accounts receivable that we don't ever collect.
And I'm
Have
just
not
wondering
been.
how many or what percent of those students would actually qualify for the free and reduced lunch? Like, we don't have an app for them, or?
I can go back and give you some specific numbers. She did give me that by campus, but I don't recall off the top of my head, but I can circle back and get you that information, and you can see what the percent of free and reduced is by campus, and then, any other information.
I don't really need the numbers. I just wonder if we could look into, I remember when I was at the high school, we captured a lot of that by having a certain amount of staff go and call some parents and get those applications completed. So I'm just wondering if that will help.
Part of their collection process is when it gets to $30, they do call and email and try to do whatever, if it's a matter of an application being completed or trying to make payment arrangements. But when it hits the $30 mark, they do proceed with those efforts.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from Trustee Fahey?
Thank you. Can you tell me the difference between instructional administration and instructional leadership? That's function 21 and 23. I
One
just
is-
need some clarification.
We go there. One is like the principals. Let's see.
Okay, the administration or the leadership? 21 and 23.
Yeah, I'll go. I don't want to quote you here. I know one is for the, like the principals and administrative team, and the others would be like, let me grab my list.
What you can do too is look those specific codes up while Ms. Brown presents, and then you can come back with those. Because I know you don't want to just go off the top of your head on that.
I will do that.
21 and
Get it to you.
23?
Yes.
Those are codes.
And I have one more question about function 36, the co-curricular activities. What does that include? Arts, athletics?
Yes, fine arts and athletics.
Those are the only
Yes.
two?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I was wondering, how are there grant or alternative funding sources being pursued?
We have a federal programs director that will apply for any,
To help offset?
yes,
Like-
but as far as like, from private foundations and things of that nature, I know we have the state and federal programs director, and any available, grants that may be offered through the state, they're going through those and making those applications. We have some CTE grants that we apply for, to help in that area. The state has also given a list of other available revenue options that we can pursue. There's grants for like security and different things, so we do have a list. I'm going through, I don't know all the answers to that, but I can definitely get back to you and identify in the district if there's a specific individual that is focused on that. I do know from a state and federal programs, we do have someone there looking, but some of the alternative funding sources, and what may be required to do that, I can follow up.
Absolutely. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you. Yes, Trustee Fahey.
Thank you. One more question about function 36. With the co-curricular activities, would it be hard to get a breakdown of how much for theater, how much for band, how much for football, how much for basketball, how much for soccer?
We can get you that information,
like that.
yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation, very well organized. I do have some questions. So on the total district projection, I've noticed that that is a considerable increase, and I know that we received the demographer's report, but I was just wondering, could you explain the basis for the increase?
On the student enrollment?
Yes,
I went to the slide.
Yes.
yes, ma'am.
I've reached out to our student services team to inquire further on that. I did not expect an increase, but they do look at this like daily and send out a weekly update of the enrollment. And so my question to them was there a particular campus or program that was driving that increase? And so I'm waiting to get that response back.
Okay, yeah, because I realize a major portion of our budget is based upon, you
Correct.
know, the ADA.
Yes.
So I do have another question. So the INS rate as listed in the presentation reflects the, our plans to refund, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so it's a lower rate than,
It will go lower if we're
Yeah.
not able to do the refunding. Our interest and sinking fund would drop.
oh, okay,
Yes.
okay.
What we're doing now is anticipating it to stay flat, because what we don't want to happen is it to drop, and then if we go out for a bond election, then we have to tell taxpayers, oh, your rate is going up, 5 cents. So if we can keep it neutral to the taxpayer, that's what we've been pursuing.
Yes, ma'am. And so our medium valued homestead is 330,000?
That's what was on our truth and taxation, yes,
Okay,
from the Dallas County assessor.
yes, ma'am. So, you had mentioned the market value as of, I think, June or July of last year?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me what the taxable value was for that period of time?
I can get that for you. I had written down the market value. I did not write down the taxable value, but I can get you that information.
Okay, all right. Because our rate is based on the taxable value, correct? Okay.
Correct.
And then, so, the budget for 27 looks like the expenditures are $5 million less, right? Okay. And those cuts are in,
A lot of it is offset with vacancies, and then our HR team has gone through and looked at stipends and different, block scheduling and things of that nature. And so they found savings to offset compensation increases, and so we're able to stay neutral there.
okay, so we're able to increase compensation for those employees that are, and while we're decreasing overall $5 million, that's pretty
Correct.
good.
And I'm not budgeting for 100% staffing, so.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, let's see. So there hasn't been an instance where we reallocated funding to debt service, has there?
No, you're not allowed to do that.
Okay.
Interest and sinking can only generate for debt. Now, if you're short debt, you can use general funds to pay your debt, but it does not go the other way.
Okay. All right, well, those are the only questions I have, and I guess there aren't any additional questions from trustees at this time, so we can proceed to the compensation overview. Thank you very much.
Thank you. While Ms. Nguyen is coming, I do want to reiterate to the board, though, a point that Madam President just made is that the compensation plan, which will come out to about $3 million, has been already counted into the $8 million. So it's $5 million plus 3 to come to a total of 8. So we actually have this down to 5. And again, we knew that we had to be aggressive in our budget work this year if we were going to correct some of the compensation issues in the district. Ms. Nguyen.
All right, thank you. Greetings, Board President Colton, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Gorey. Tonight, I will present an overview of the proposed compensation plan that will be coming to you in June for full approval. So we are currently working with TASB to conduct a comprehensive pay study review for Duncanville ISD. The district's last compensation study took place during the 21-22 school year, and since that time, workforce expectations have evolved, and market conditions and what's considered to be market pay for various positions has also evolved. This work with TASB is especially important because the district continues to experience its challenges recruiting and retaining effective staff in several areas. Duncanville ISD not only competes with districts of like size, but we are also competing geographically with several districts that are larger than us and that have larger compensation packages and more financial resources than we have. And so the purpose of this review is to evaluate our compensation structures and salary ranges to remain competitive with the market so that we can continue to attract and retain high-quality employees. And so we are working with TASB in this comprehensive review to look at the different current employees' pay structures and the compensation practices. This includes evaluating salary ranges, placements within the pay structures, and how compensation is organized amongst the various employee groups. As part of the review, TASB will compare Duncanville ISD compensation to the local market and surrounding districts to determine how competitive our pay structures are within the region. Based on the market analysis, TASB will provide recommendations for potential compensation updates or adjustments. This review will also include estimated costs associated with the proposed changes and guidance on how to implement them in consideration for the district and the board moving forward. We will be proposing a 1% general pay increase for all employees as part of the district's compensation planning process. This increase would be calculated from the newly established midpoint of each pay grade identified through the TASB system pay review. Using the midpoint allows the district to apply increases in a more consistent and structured manner across employee groups. This approach helps maintain internal equity by ensuring compensation adjustments are aligned within the district's pay structures and continue to support market competitiveness. On this next slide, we are showing Duncanville ISD's current teacher pay for the 25-26 school year in comparison to surrounding districts for the current school year. I would like to thank the Board of Trustees for your support of teacher compensation over the last school year. Due to the board's investment, Duncanville ISD is now has the highest starting teacher pay in the Best Southwest. Last year, the board increased the teacher compensation in 2 separate increases. And so the first adjustment was going from the $58,500 to the $61,000. And then the second adjustment was going from the $61,000 to the $62,250, where we also added the increases for the teacher retention allotment. These increases have helped strengthen the district's ability to recruit and retain high-quality teachers in a highly competitive market. This chart illustrates the proposed teacher pay step schedule for the 26-27 school year compared to the 25-26 school year. As part of the proposal, teachers would receive at least approximately a $700 increase between their current salary and the next step on the step schedule. And this represents about 1% of the market median pay for teacher compensations. In addition to the step increase, certain step levels may also receive additional market adjustments to help align the teacher compensation and pay for those varied levels of experience. This slide explains how additional pay adjustments may be applied as part of the updated compensation plan. Employees would receive the proposed 1% general pay increase on the midpoint of their updated pay grade. After the general pay increase is applied, then additional adjustments may then be provided according to the employee's years of experience and position up to the midpoint of the pay range. And this goal is to help move employees closer to the market value over time while ensuring compensation remains fair and consistent across similar positions. On this next slide is an example of how the proposed compensation adjustments will work with bus drivers as an example. A strong example of the district's market adjustments is the proposed increase to the bus driver pay range from a minimum of $22 an hour to $25 an hour. Bus driver positions continue to be difficult to fill, and the district consistently experiences vacancies in these roles throughout the year. Increasing the pay range will help us to remain more competitive in recruiting and retaining qualified drivers. Under this proposal, employees would first receive a 1% general pay increase on the new midpoint, which here it would be the $28.41. After that increase would be applied, then additional adjustments would be made to make sure that the employees, it aligns them with their years of experience. For example, any bus drivers who were making less than the new minimum of $25 an hour would need additional adjustments and increases on top of the 1% to bring them in alignment with their years and experience to be at that new minimum. And so again, that would happen for all bus drivers according to their years of experience. Last year, the district's primary focus was on teacher compensation. With the board support, again, Duncanville ISD has the highest starting teacher pay in the Best Southwest. This year, the compensation review is also focusing on hard-to-fill and critical positions across the district. For example, the district has had 2 police officer vacancies this school year, which reflects the ongoing recruitment challenges. On this slide, we are highlighting several employee groups included in the proposed compensation adjustments, including police officers, campus administrators, administrative support staff, maintenance positions, and auxiliary staff. These positions are essential to the daily operations of the district and play an important role in supporting students, campuses, and overall district operations. The proposed adjustments are intended to help the district again remain competitive in recruiting and retaining employees across multiple areas. At this time, the pay study still is remaining, it's in draft form, has not yet been finalized. The estimated costs associated with the current compensation recommendations is approximately $3.3 million. Some of the compensation costs are expected to be offset through staffing, efficiencies, and vacancy reductions. Adjustments to middle and high school master schedules have improved staffing efficiency and reduced the number of full-time equivalents or FTEs or positions that are needed. In addition, the district continues to review vacant positions to identify roles that may be eliminated through attrition or operational adjustments. Based on the work so far, the district estimates approximately $2 million in potential savings, although staffing adjustments are still in progress. The district will continue working with TASB to finalize the compensation recommendations and plans to bring the final compensation proposal to the board for approval in June. The estimated compensation costs include the proposed general pay increase for all employees, the equity adjustment, and academic and athletic and fine art stipends, and both the proposed compensation costs and the estimated staff and savings were already incorporated into the budget that Ms. Pumphrey presented earlier. Are there any questions?
One thing before we take questions, I want to, Ms. Brown, remind the board that we did provide a document because there's been a lot of conversations here as it relates to our principal and assistant principal pay. Those are two areas too where we're quite frankly having trouble attracting candidates. And what we have at your station, there's a document that's front and back, and it does show you what those proposed. Even though this is in draft form, we do know what those proposed increase will be for those two pay groups. One thing I'll remind the board is that at one point I talked to the board about bringing these in May so that we could get ahead of the recruitment. However, when you look at the total compensation plan and working with the consultants, it's best to bring the plan at one time because it's like a domino. Everything you increase affects something else. So we chose to wait and just bring the entire plan in its totality in June.
Are there any questions from trustees on this? So I do have a question. So when is TASB going to complete? I know you're bringing the report in June, but when will they finish?
So they're working on finishing now. So the district has been working with TASB. We met several times via Zoom. And so he's working on final adjustments now, and then he has to send it back to our team to approve. And so we hope to have that within the next couple of weeks.
Okay. All right. So Trustee Fahey.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Thank you, President. I know that staffing adjustments are still being made. Can you tell me a little bit more about the block scheduling, periods 7th and 8th at our high school? What's going to be the change?
Yes, ma'am. So for the middle school schedules, they went to a 5-period day, 70-minute periods, where it's like a B day where they actually have the additional intervention classes built in. And so with those additional intervention classes built in, we were able to staff differently. So we had a certain amount of core teachers and elective teachers. And so when we did this block scheduling, it reduced the need for some of those FTEs because the kids were taking 5 periods a day, but they were having a double dip of math and reading. And so we were able to save on some of those FTEs, especially in the area with electives.
And high school?
And then with the high school, adjustments were made to some of their PLC time. So high school teachers had a conference period and the PLC planning period.
I'm sorry, PLC and
Which is
FTD and all.
where they're planning professional learning communities. I'm
Okay.
sorry, and so they
Okay.
had a conference period, but they also had time where they, looked at data and studied their lesson plans, and so they had pretty much almost 2 conference periods. But one was tailored to professional development on the job, and the other was just their normal legal conference, their 450 minutes every 2 weeks. And so with some of the adjustments with the high school schedule and looking at those PLCs being for core teachers, the ELC STAR tested area teachers, we were able to make adjustments with staffing, which actually ended up saving some FTEs there with the ELC tested teachers having the PLC and the other teachers just having their conference.
And the pay is still the same.
The teacher's base salary is still the same. And so some stipends may be affected for various teachers if they're no longer doing supplemental duties, but the base salary for all teachers is the same. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other questions? No. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, could you re-explain the additional pay adjustments?
Yes, and so actually, on this slide as an example, the one slide was, for example, the bus driver
Yes.
example. And so if we did 1% of the midpoint, and I'm so sorry, I'm gonna get my calculator. And so, and a perfect example is this, if we had a driver making the $22 an hour now, and we just did a 1% on the midpoint, then that 1% on the midpoint is 28 cents, right? And so if we only applied that raise to the $22, like for a driver that had 0
Below.
years of experience, well, that driver will only be making $22.28,
Yes.
right? But
Yes,
the new
ma'am.
minimum is now 25, so that driver needs additional adjustments to be in alignment with the new minimum. Another example can be an employee who is, say an employee has just 10 years of experience and you fall halfway through the minimum and the midpoint. And so if I'm about halfway through the minimum and the midpoint, ideally on a new pay scale, I should still be about
Yes.
halfway through the new minimum and the midpoint. But if you only give them the 1% adjustment, then they will fall behind because new hires are going to get hired. Their salary is going to be based off the new scale, right? And so you don't want a new employee saying, hey, I have 10 years of experience and I'm basing your salary off the new scale, whereas people who have been with us had 10 years of experience, but they only got a 1% adjustment. And so then new hires with the same level would come in making more. So then you have to bring those employees, you have to give them additional adjustments so that they will be where a new hire would be with the new 10 years of experience on the new pay plan with the new minimum, midpoint, and maximum.
So would it be like a 2-step, one to put them on the new scale where they are on the current scale? Like if they're midway, let's say 25% through, put them 25% through on the new scale plus give them a 1%?
So
Is
the
that-
1% will be applied first,
Oh,
and then
okay.
that way it's just consistently applied, the 1% will apply first, and then the additional adjustments will put them where they should be in the new pay plan,
Okay.
but only up to the midpoint.
Right, and one thing I'll add to that too is a part of our work with TASB, and that's what they're doing right now, is they're taking every single employee and they're looking at them individually and adjusting them for us so that, and they have a model to do this where we upload the data to them. So when they provide the information back to us and complete a report, it will also say exactly where everyone falls and what they should make.
Okay, and all of this will be, I know, explained to the employees so that they will understand that it's, fair and consistent across.
Yes, I mean, we
Yeah.
can, put some information on our website to just talk about the new pay plan. And it's really almost similar to the equity adjustments that we gave last year for teacher retention allotment, for those teacher adjacent positions. Except our team had to hand calculate those, but that was almost similar to those as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
One thing I'll add to it, Ms. Brown did not, you may have said this, I'm sorry if I missed it, but one thing that our TASB consultant has pointed out is the uniqueness of where Duncanville is located, because we are really not quite suburban, because we're butted up against so many large districts with much larger tax base, such as Arlington. You know, even some of the people we compare ourselves to, like the Arlingtons, the Grand Prairies, the Dallases. So again, it's necessary that when we look at compensation, that we're considering that and being as competitive as we can be in some of those spaces.
So, but I guess the budget impact of these changes is already incorporated into the proposed budget?
Yes.
Into what Ms. Pumphrey provided, yes.
Okay. All right. Are there any further questions? We don't have any.
I would like to, of course, thank staff too, because again, to answer your question, there were some dollar amounts that we had to get the deficit to before we would have even considered bringing the compensation adjustments. So again, I do thank staff and know that, and we acknowledge and appreciate that we still have a lot of work to do, but we are happy to see us get below that 10 million mark and look to continue to bring that down.
Yeah, we echo those sentiments. Yeah, because, we noticed that there was a decrease in projected expenditures. Thank you, for all that you all do, because I know you work very hard, and it's not just now, this whole year. And not only are you doing that, but you're working on pushing academics as well, so, yeah, thank you all.
Thank you, thank you.
One thing, Prince, to our, we've talked several times about too, around the incentivizing the work of our principals. I did bring back our principal performance incentive, and we do look to speak to that as we move forward too. Again, we talked about letting this year pass, and then we would come back and revisit this. And again, I think it would be a good time for us to revisit this in this budget, even though it would not impact next year's budget because it's paid out of the following budget. But again, we would want this to be approved so that we could to utilize this to incentivize our principal recruitment process. Ms. Pomfries.
Good evening. I did have a couple. You stumped me with that function 21, 23. I was like, on the spot, I couldn't think. But function 21, it's like coordinators and directors for special programs and like your assistant deputy superintendents. And then function 23 are the campus leaders, like the principals and APs, which is what, okay. And President Colton, on your property value information, the taxable value for residentials was 3.4 last year at the July certification date, and it's 3.9 on the preliminary estimate here. Commercial was 2.4 billion. And the business personal property was 1.13.
Okay, so.
For overall 6.8 billion.
6.8.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so 3.4 on the residential.
2.4 on commercial
Okay.
and 1.13 on the business personal property.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
You're
appreciate
welcome.
the information.
And then Dr. Flowers, I will get you the meal information, and then I owe function 36 breakout for you, Miss.
No, I don't need anything. I was just bringing it up to, just for consideration to see if we're missing anything there. I don't need anything.
Okay. Well, if you change your mind, let me know.
Thank you.
All righty. So here, the next slide are the next steps as we move closer to budget adoption in June. We're here on the 11th. I will come back to the board as an information item at the May 18th meeting to provide any further updates that we have there. We'll continue to work with the chief of HR as we hash out, as the TASB study wraps up. And so if any information there, we'll bring that to the board as well. TRS active care rates were published, and those did increase. A lot of times the board wants to know, so like health insurance costs, there was some increases there for the employees, so I'll be able to bring that information. Pam, you shared that with me. That's what you sent me, right? Yes, on the benefit stuff. So I will bring that forth. What else is there? June 15th is the board meeting that we're scheduled to adopt so in the meantime, I'll be working to get all the things published in the newspaper and make sure we're meeting all of our compliance requirements. July 25th, consistent with prior years, is when we'll receive our actual certified property values. And then there's different things we have to do with the Texas Education Agency as far as compression on our tax rate, complete their property value survey, and then they'll let us know what the limits on our maintenance and operations tax rate will be. So consistent with prior years, you'll be adopting a budget, without the property tax information and all of that. And so we'll have to come back to the board in the fall once all of that is solidified, and then there may be adjustments and changes at that point. So I will take any questions. Yes, ma'am.
Would you keep us informed as to what school districts around us are adopting when they adopt their budget? The stats you gave us for this year's, like right now we lead in a starting payment.
Okay, yes.
But can you keep us informed?
Yes,
because,
ma'am.
As soon as one adopts something, everybody's gonna have to look,
Yes.
But thank you.
Yes.
One thing I'd like to add to that too, and we absolutely will do that, and I know that we are monitoring and trying to make some of those predictions to ensure that we are still higher in certain areas. One thing I will tell you though is, and again, I'll say some of our neighboring districts, we're so fortunate that we're not doing reduction in force, because some of our neighboring districts very close to us have announced reductions in force as late as this month. So really we're fortunate that we're not in those situations, and we will work hard to not get there. But we're in some interesting financial times, and it's hard to say that we won't ever be there because of where we are, and we know we have to continue to cut. And when you look at 3 years of cuts, you're almost to the bone. So we just know that we're fortunate not to be in that case, but we will monitor and keep the board abreast as those districts around us make some decisions. Don't want to call a district tonight publicly, of course, but we will make sure the board's aware of those things.
Thank you.
And our budget is fluid.
Thank you, Mrs. Pumphrey. Let's see. So if there is no other business, we appreciate Dr. Gorey and Ms. Pumphrey and Ms. Brown Wynn and all the staff for your attendance, and any guests we might have tonight. Thank you all for attending the budget workshop. We're going to get ready to adjourn. So with that, being that there are no further items to discuss, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Okay, properly moved in second. Good night, everyone. Thank you all. Thank you.